There we go. Recording is on. Well, my name is Trevor. I work for my own company, which is built on power, and I have a new idea that I'm testing on Trevor Perry today. The idea is to have short videos on YouTube discussing different topics, and in the future we'll have discussion or presentations about things like single level storage, like object-based operating system, whatever. Now the first one will be about the naming IBM, and the reason why I invited Trevor Perry is because no one on earth has spent so much time on this topic, I would say. And the title is it's IBM dammit. And Trevor, welcome to this webinar, or it's not a webinar, but this interview.
Thanks, Torbjörn.
You're located in Austin right now, right? But you're originally from Australia.
Yep, I'm in Austin, Texas. Been in the US Actually, I'll just put this date out there, and you can work it out. I've been in the US since 1988.
1988. Okay, that's quite some time.
And that's a very important date for our platform, right?
Oh, it is. It is. You landed on the soil when it was H400 was announced. Yep. Okay. Again, a little bit of background why this call. So you've been famous, or for some people infamous, for keeping the IBM brand focus on it, make sure people are using the right wordings and so on. This is what we're going to talk about. But I do it from time to time myself. And what happened a couple of weeks ago, I did this on LinkedIn, and I did it on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, what I did, as you can see on the screenshot, I turned the comments off, which I think was that was on purpose, of course. But I got a lot of likes. So you see, you have 140 in one group, and I went to the AS400 specialist group, and I got at least, not as many, right? But it's still 40. And as you can see on top right, on Facebook, I didn't, and of course start the discussion of dialogue right away, which is pretty. And you've been here, Trevor. So I just want to share this with the rest of the world. This is what can happen, right? So it was something wrong with which was wrong, right? In the naming, the System 36, the operating system name was not System 36, but it doesn't matter. And as I can say, you are all missing the point. I just want to keep people to start using this. And you, as I said, you've been spend more time thinking about and working hard on this topic in the past. We will show you retired from it, so I'm sorry if I pick you up again. But anyhow, this is the blog, right? So this, you have some alter ego. Can you explain a little bit about this blog? What was it? Why did you start it?
So the short version is that we were in London for a conference on System I at the time. Was it System I? And so it was about 2008, 2009, and the television was in our room was working. And then for some reason, the internet in the room wasn't working. We couldn't get any internet. And I went down to the front desk, and they said, oh, the internet's not working. We'll send Angus, the IT chap. And immediately that just resonated with me. And so I created this site. We ended up having 27 different people contributing to it. And it was all about promoting the platform. At the time, it was System I. And what we tried really hard to do was to have people step up to what the platform was at the time. So actually, it was 2006 that became System I. So it was probably 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. And then, of course, in 2008, it became Power Systems running an operating system called IBM I. And we just continued with Angus. And what I did was several things. The one thing that still lives on is I actually have 3 images. You can see at the top of that, it says family tree. And that link to family tree shows 3 images.
I have those on the end of the slides. I will show
excellent.
them.
And
I'm using it. I'm going back to that site often.
Yep. And the struggle I've had with that is that later on, we've now only had nothing since 2008. We've actually had many things since 2008. We've got operating system changes every year, major operating system changes. And so in some of my presentations I was doing out in the wild, I was actually showing all of the upgrades from IBM I 6.1, 7.1 up to 7.3, I think is sort of when I stopped, and also all the technology refreshes. So it looks like there was a line drawn at Power Systems, but it hasn't. It's just got even bigger and better and all that kind of stuff. So this is sort of a bit of a history only up until the start of when we got IBM I. But that was done because people kept asking and complaining. And of course, you know, I have three of them. I have the servers, the operating systems, and the dates. And of course, you know, like that happened is I got pushback and people go, that's wrong. I'm missing the thing before it. I'm missing this, I'm missing that. The whole point of this exercise was just to show how incredible this history was and to remember not to live in it. And that was the point. And Angus was that. I actually also created a cartoon called Gus. And Gus was a man in his eye, and it was his system eye. And it was a little boy having a conversation with a server. And it was the stupidest, silliest thing. I did 50 of them. If you see up the top, it's a link called Gus. They're still out there. There's 50 cartoons. I actually even created a cartoon book of the whole thing. I mean, this is how silly it got. Gus, The Adventures of a Man in His Eye. And it was so expensive to make because I did it all in color and everything, but it was fun. And we were celebrating community and celebrating the platform. And it was very difficult to write a cartoon every single week. But, you know, I always claim I'm the only System I cartoonist on the planet, but it was just silliness and play and celebrating this wonderful platform. The challenge
what happened then? Because on the screen we can see I resign.
Yeah, so the challenge is that I got called a lot, the AS400 policeman, and the rumor was if you said AS400 around me, then I would actually scream at you in public. And that's not true. If you're in my session and I talked about the platform and I promoted it and somebody said AS400, I would probably mock you. But it was in my session and you chose to be there. I didn't go out in public screaming at people. And there's always history about, I started on the System 38 and I worked on the AS400. That's not incorrect. That's historical. And people didn't quite understand it. So I had this reputation. People got upset with me and would spread rumors. And it started getting really personal online. One young guy actually went out and tried to find, you know, smack about me. And it got to the point where it was really difficult to differentiate between me and the platform. Look, I don't mind if people really got angry with me. What it helped is it stirred passion for IBM I. And that was great, absolutely great. But when it got so personal that they were missing the point, it was time for me to step away from that. Now, I didn't step away from it completely at all, because I'm still out there trying to educate. My tone is slightly softer, but online, you know, you and I both have some different English accent. And in person, we can get away with that. But when we type, the accent that they're reading it in is their own head. And they read it and they go, I would never say that. I would be an arsehole if I said that. So therefore, Trevor is. And it became this attack on me rather than promoting the platform. So it was time for me to step away.
Because the focus went wrong, right? It was not the right focus.
Well, it wasn't even the focus went wrong.
It just
got, it shouldn't have been me. And so the following year, I stepped down from being an IBM champion because I didn't think that there were other people who could step up into that role. And look, there has been. I know that it's not just me, but stuff that I've done has had an impact. People have stepped up to it. I've had companies step into IBM I. I've had fellow IBM I champions and professionals step into IBM I and really promote the platform as it is today. And that's really what it should be. The challenge is, and it's still out there, what's happening is the pandemic has brought a bunch of people into the online community that we never had out before, out in the real world and out in the community, and they haven't caught up. And so they're starting the same conversations that we had 10 years ago. And so there's still this misinformation about the platform what it is and who it is. And so I'm still out there poking a little bit. The reason is I am the moderator of the IBMI professionals group on LinkedIn, and there is no one who'll step up to do it. If you open the group like they have with one of the older ones with AS400 in its name, anybody can get in there. And the problem is you get spam, you get Russian bots, you get predatory vendors, you get all these people screaming about the death of the platform like they have for 20 years. And so I still moderate it carefully so that IBMI can be promoted rather than demoted. So I've sort of stepped away. I'm not really working on IBMI much. It's still my day job, but I am trying to, find and follow my passion. I found my passion and I'm now following it. And that is, I'm working on becoming a full-time speaker, motivational. And look, IBMI and its community have taught me a lot about how to motivate people. So I'm very fortunate.
For sure. And I'm one of them, Trevor, because you mentioned your sessions. And in 2011, I think it was, I went to Minneapolis for my first common conference. Right. Yep. And I just before leaving Sweden, I was convinced that I said to myself, because a close person had the AS400 in their shop, and he said AS400. I said, I gave up. I said, okay, let's just say AS400. And one of the first session I went to was your session. Someone said, you should go to Trevors, and I did. And since 2011, at that session, I've been saying IBMI, but it's very, very frustrating. And back in the other slide, you said, will you resign? That said 8 years from the IBMI has been for 8 years. So it was 2016 then. Now yep. It's 6 years since. And this is, I just put, because as you mentioned also in your group and other groups, people are posting spamming articles and articles about active articles written today, right? So this is yep. just two examples. And they are mixing things up completely. It's so frustrating to see. As you can see, the OS/400 i5 operating system runs on 6 different hardware. Okay. And there's 400 databases created in 9 days. And there's another one at the bottom. You can see they also mixing up things, and iOS is everywhere, right? Despite the best efforts of Alison Butterfield, wrongly yep. spelled, the AS400 product, blah, 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 doing the keyword research on Google clearly shows that more people look AS400 and IBMI on a monthly basis. Well, and this is a new video, well, 4 years old, but I just had to do this, Google it, right? And as you can see, AS400 8.1, I don't know what the number means to anyone, but yep. it shows that especially you can Google IBMI, and the first things comes up is about IBMI. And if I take iSeries, get way more results, but if you look at the hits, it's not about IBMI. The iSeries, sorry, it's not about IBMI. It's about so many other things, and so on and so on. So it is frustrating. But and another one I did on tweeting IBMI, right? And then you see on Twitter article. This is about IBMI, the technology, then the operating system that is so modern that we see today. And just another example, and remember you had something similar in your presentations. Yeah. Well, iSeries is so many other things, so it is stupid. All the arguments.
Yeah, my favorite was the AS400 was an actual variant of Audi made by an Audi performance company. It was a red station wagon, and I would tell people, take this picture, post it on your wall. When they come in and say AS400, point to the Audi on the wall and say, that's my AS400. This is my IBMI.
So finally, just give me a few, or the audience, a few reasons why you think it is important that we say IBMI and we say it runs on power system instead of whatever combination or old names or whatever. Why do you think this is important, Trevor?
So imagine that you were a business owner and you relied on a technologist to help you move forward in today's challenging IT world. And somebody came along and said, I know a platform that is best for business and can run your online transaction processing like nothing else can do, but is also open to the world and secure and secureable, if you will, and can work, and we can hire modern Node.js programmers. We can get Python people to run on it. And its back end is incredibly secure. It's a full operating environment that contains the database security, application development. It's all there. And this platform can be in your office and secure if you like, or it can be in the cloud, or it could be a hybrid, which IBM loves to sell. What if I came to you as a business owner and said that? Now, I don't believe it's the job of IT to ever say that. I believe it's the job of a CIO to say, yes, company, talk to the board. We have the best solution for you. Let me decide that. Don't come to me and tell me that you heard on the golf course that Windows was the greatest thing, AWS, Azure. I've got the right solution for you. So imagine then if I went to that CIO and I said, I've got the best platform for you. And they said, tell me. And somebody said, oh, that's just an AS400. What are they going to do? They're going to look up AS400 and they're going to say, that's an old piece of crap, and I'm not going to bring that into my system. By representing today's IBM I, which is an incredible platform, nothing that the AS400 is ever like, but it has its heritage there. That's very key for us to know. But if I'm a green screen RPG programmer, I've been doing that forever and my life is AS400, I don't want to change. And so I can keep my company back by not telling them about this amazing platform. And when the company gets acquired or a new IT director or a new CIO walks in, they're going to say, look at that old crap, and they'll want to replace it. But if the community were to be together to promote this incredible IBM I, now there is a difference. If you go back to when the AS400 was released, the System 36 and System 38 were incredible machines that met a need of running a business, running the IT of a business, running the technology of a business, running the accounting, all of those things. That's not the world anymore. And in fact, there's no such thing as the IBM I anymore, because as of this year, we now have virtual serial number, and I can take my operating system, my IBM I, and move it anywhere I like. And it doesn't even care which piece of where that hardware, that power systems is located. So we've got this amazing, incredible, modern, up-to-date platform. And every time we use an old term to represent it to somebody who might be new or somebody who has a company that wants to move forward, what we are saying was IBM I doesn't matter. I love this platform. I've had my career on this platform, and I'm going to tell you that it's really not moved on, because I'm going to represent it as something old, something outdated, and look at the applications. IBM I is so much more than AS400 ever was. It's so much more than iSeries was, or System I. And this power systems that it runs on is used absolutely everywhere. It's actually power systems chips are running the rovers on Mars right now. It's all over the place. And there's an open power consortium. This is an incredible piece of technology. And now we have this business platform to run on it that will integrate. That's what the I is about. And yet we still represent it as something that it isn't, something that is old and has a reputation, and opens us to what I call predatory vendors. Somebody's going to come to you and say, oh, I see you're an AS400 customer. I think you should leave the platform. My response is, migrate your AS400 to IBM I. It's the cheapest migration you ever have, because your AS400 apps will run on IBM I, but IBM I is not your grandfather's AS400. So it's about the future of the platform. If you care that IBM I should have a future, if you care that we want to take this platform forward, then we as a community should represent it as it is today. And that's the core of all of this. The challenge we have is our community is truly stuck. There are people who complain because they can't type IBM I without it uppercasing the I. We're technologists, for crying out loud. There's tools. It's called autocorrect inside of Word. You should know that you're a technologist. Oh, but I can't Google it. You can Google it. You didn't. You heard somebody say that and you haven't done it. If you do it yourself, you'll find that all the modern stuff has IBM I on it. And if you would stop writing AS400 and I series, people write IBMI brackets AS400 / I series. IBMI is not brackets AS400 I series. There's a thing called search engine optimization, SEO. We're technologists. We should be able to use our SEO to drag the AS400 searches, to drag the I series searches to our IBMI page. We should mention it, but it shouldn't be our lead story. We should take IBMI, we should lead with it, we should promote what it is today so that IBMI has a future. People say it's disappearing. It isn't. It's been disappearing for years.
It isn't, for sure.
It's been declining, but we have an opportunity to increase it, to grow it. And that's the way we approach it. If we approach it that it's IBMI, it's the most amazing thing, we'll have a strong future in this, and it'll be going for another 20, 30 years.
Very good, Trevor. And thank you very much for taking time to discuss this, well, still hot topic. And I hope we at least got some people on Earth that listen to this and start using the right names and wordings. Like I did myself in 2011, thanks to you, Trevor.
Well,
thank you very much.
I encourage people to step up to IBMI, and Torbjörn, I love what you're doing and I appreciate you here too. So keep at it.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. And stop.
Sorry that